I started buying polishing powders. And I had a van full of probably 30 different polishing powders. And I found that some worked really well, others didn't work really well. Well, because of my background in science, I decided I'm going to break all these powders down and figure out what they were. So I came to this conclusion. Well, it's a fact, not a conclusion. Marble polish, we're not talking granite, we're talking marble polishing powders, contain two main ingredients. Okay? They contain an abrasive, and the abrasive is aluminum oxide, same stuff you find in sandpaper, but a very, very fine grit of aluminum oxide. And they contain what we call oxalic acid. Okay, it's an acid, it's a powdered acid. And the way they work is, you've seen what you did over there at 1800. You see how the polish came up? If we kept going all the way up and all the way up, it's strictly with abrasives, we could probably get a factory polish. But it would take us a long time because we'd have to go finer and finer and finer to like 11,000 in order to get a decent polish. Well, you don't want to spend all that time doing that. So what's the shortcut? The shortcut is the oxalic acid that's in the powder. What the oxalic acid does, and this is called, I like this term, it's called controlled destruction. What it does is it eats away at the marble, but very rapidly, instantaneously, and allows the marble to not really melting, but if you want to think of it as melting, it's kind of melting it and letting it to flow out. So as the acid's attacking the marble, the abrasive is smoothing it out. Okay? So that's basically how these polishing powders work. Now, of all those 30 powders that I've had, some of them have a lot of oxalic acid in it. Some of them are pure oxalic acid. As a matter of fact, the Italians used to polish with oxalic acid and sawdust and burlap bags. And I've actually seen them do it, and they get a phenomenal polish. They'll take a burlap bag, put it on a pad. They'll take sawdust, real clean sawdust, sprinkle it on the floor, put some oxalic acid in there, and get a hell of a polish out of there. So what I'm saying is that there's really, the only difference in all those polishing powders is how much oxalic acid is in there. If there's a lot of oxalic acid, that powder is considered really hot. If there's a little, it's really, really cold. So my recommendation is find a powder you like, find a powder that works for you, and learn how to work that powder, okay, rather than trying all these different powders. I like the 5X brand. 5X is kind of like the generic of all the powders that are out there. People have used it for a long, long time. Now, the only additional compound that the 5X has in it is shellac. It has shellac flakes. That's why it has that yellowish amber color to it. So it has oxalic acid, it has aluminum oxide, and it has shellac in there. So I find that to be a good generic powder to use. There's others, the MB22, I think it's called, or 20. That's a decent powder. But whatever powder you choose for marble, we're not talking granite now, for marble, stick with that powder and learn how to use it. Okay, so that's your powder lecture. Now we're going to get a pad lecture.